Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons. Extra special thanks to guest lecturer patron Ryan Lilly. Thank you for your support. Enjoy the video. Hey there, Rulers. Welcome back to Ruler School. This is DMO73, bringing you a feature match for the week between my buddy Mark and Tyler. Tyler was playing the Red-Black Frayla aggro list that I was shipped by Frank Closser, and he was willing to pilot that list for me. I was over on the other table playing Gil, and then Mark is playing a take on Lucifer that's primarily focused on Drain. It's not really using that aggro, so it's kind of playing things to gain its own life or just drain your opponent's life away, while also spot removing and kind of turning your opponent's stuff against them. So we'll have to see kind of how this goes. So it looks like Mark is going to be on the play here. Going into our turn on, we see a Thought Control. A little interesting to see Thought Control over Look of Corruption. Maybe he just didn't have them, or maybe he's just playing both. We see quite a few options here. Yeah, the Gravekeeper I think is the best actual decision here. You want to get rid of it early. If he, especially seeing that he had a Hilda in hand, he could play Gravekeeper and then mill Safina. And so then what you have is the next turn you like play Hilda into Safina, and on turn 2 you're sitting on 3 things. Really powerful early game. So then Tyler is going to burn himself for 2 on his turn with that Nullstone, get the Majin Dark Elf, swing in for that early 6. Going over into Mark's turn, see he also looks like he has March of the Dead as well. We've got another Thought Control. All cards we've seen before. Faith in the Darkness gets hit here. Follows it up with a Look of Corruption. So yeah, he really is just playing this early discard game. And you see he does have that, I can't remember what it's called. The angel that, Azazel, that comes in and becomes cheaper if your opponent has fewer cards in their hand. And we're seeing also the Tears of the Fallen here. So just ripping the hands to shreds. And oh, that's really unfortunate that the random card hit here was March of the Undead, because March of the Undead would have been a really good follow-up this next turn. He could have energized, he could have done the Awakening, gotten 2 things back right to the field, and suddenly been back on pressure. This does happen to top deck into that Faith in the Darkness, pretty solid there. Does see a Gene, which is really excellent. Weirdly enough, in these mirrors, or in these like darkness mirrors, Lucifer does kind of have a little bit of an advantage against a non-Rune Ruler, because if they're relying on Gene, Black Rosario is still just able to clear boards that way. So we're getting the swings in here. It's a lot of damage, 16, so taking down Mark to 19. But Mark is still in a position where, you know, next turn he's going to be able to play that Azazel, force one of the discards. He can play Black Rosario. He could March of the Dead. He doesn't have any of his own creatures in grave, so the March of the Dead right now isn't going to do much. You see that there's a Command of Life and Death there. Also not really going to do much here. Does have a Soul Prison as well. Ultimately, probably the best scenario here, being at 3 will, is to just play the Black Rosario, I would imagine, and just wipe the 2 off the board, just to clear it, and then kind of just sit and wait and see. The other option would be that you could take the Majin Dark Elf, or sorry, you could take the Joan d'Arc to your side of the field, use that Soul Prison, but that doesn't feel nearly as good. Looks like he has Power of Immortality, Jet Buckwings, Demon Division, and Black Rosario still left in the Rune deck. So yeah, I think Black Rosario is probably the best decision here. Yeah, and we're going to see that get played, so it's just going to pull the 2 off the board. Says, so this is a little bit of a slow start. Tyler's doing a good job despite having all this discard to kind of keep sending things, keep the pressure on. See, there's some March of the Dead right there, which is really great. Would have been, every single one of these March of the Deads is immediately better if you have access to Hilda or Safina, because what you can do is you can target Hilda and Jean if there's a Safina engrave, and immediately for 3 will put out Jean, Hilda, and Safina, turn on your Jean immediately and then swing in. This is still good because it gets in that Gene and that Majin Dark Elf back. He gets to swing in, putting even more pressure on Mark. And the deck does run Astema, so like a single Astema here is almost pretty close to lethal. Just being able to pay the life to kill Mark, being so close as he is. So Mark's sitting with a lot of cards in his hand, several cards that aren't really going to do much. The Look of Corruption is really not going to do much. He doesn't really want to cast that right now anyway, purely because, you know, there's not a really a reason to. He definitely could play the... He doesn't want to play the Azazel right now because... Yeah, so he doesn't want to play the Azazel first because as soon as one of the things is dead, then Tyler can just use the Energize. So he's just going to go ahead and use the Look at Corruption, steal that one card, and then pass the turn, which I think is the right call. Tyler debating whether or not he wants to perform Judgment or move into combat. I think ultimately the right move here is to force the pressure. So you force the swings now, which is probably going to force the Jet Black Wings. We know that's coming. And then, you know, you can flip over Frayla. Although flipping over Frayla right now wasn't going to do much. So you just call Stone and you just set up for the next turn. Mark not having seen a single Resonator so far on his board state. There's a Glint of Insight here. Blind Glint. He only has one mystery counter, so it's not really going to do much. This does at least provide him some knowledge, casting the Glint. I think he misses on the whiff, but now he has information about what his hand is. So there's two cards in there right now for Mark that just aren't going to do much. The Azazel comes in, sure, but beyond that, they're really just not going to do much. He's going to attempt to go into combat, and then we're going to see that Jet Black Wings, which is going to clear the board there. So Tyler's play here, I think, is to call Stone and then use Frayla's ability to bring back Gravekeeper back to his hand so that next turn he can set up for the Hilda Safina stuff and just put on a lot of pressure. End of the turn, paying that 3. Takes himself down to 35. And gets that Gravekeeper back. So next turn he'll be able to play Gravekeeper, flip into Frayla, and be able to give Frayla swiftness. And he should just be able to take the game at that point. Casting the Azazel here for 2. Lets him draw those 2 cards. And then keep one and discard the other. Ultimately, I think keeping the Azazel is probably the right call. I mean, he could even put the Azazel down right now. It just sets up a nice little wall. The other thing to note here is that eventually, if he gets low enough, Tyler does have Frayla's ability to burn, so he could just burn the Lucifer player to death. He's going to go ahead and cast Demon Division here, leaving himself open at 1 will. I think that's kind of a misplay here. Ultimately, knowing how much will there's available, he's at 4 or 5 resources. So Tyler here can actually most likely just win. Or at least put himself pretty dang close to be able to at least burn things out. Pays 1. Sends the Safina to grave. And here's where I think there's a little bit of a misplay. So he uses his Null Stones to flip, leaving himself the Energize rather than burning the Energize here. So he has access to Red Will, thus being able to give Swiftness to Frayla. He's going to get to grab Hilda and Safina here. Now, ultimately, knowing that there's that Azazel on board, the play here might actually just be to just pass rather than do Swiftness. That is definitely an option, especially because he's still pretty high up on life, and he knows that both of Lucifer's board wipes at this point are gone in the form of Black Rosario and Jet Black Wings. So yeah, you see he just passes. And then he has the Asthma. So the Asthma here is a great follow-up play. Ultimately, he possibly could have just cast that and won the game anyway that way, using the paying 1,000 life to deal 500 damage. But We're seeing a Soul Prison come down from Mark, who's going to get to steal the Safina. Apparently not. Misses the steal there. Soul Prison on the Hilda as well. So he should have... Oh, he played the Azazel. My apologies. And then he gets to steal it with the Soul Prison. This still feels fine because Mark's tapping himself out. So the Azazel play, I think, actually probably would have been lethal here if he had done it last turn rather than flip. You play the Azazel and then pay 500 life. And then, yeah, you pay the Azazel, take him down to 8. Pay a grand of life, take him down to 3. And then you just flip over Frayla and have a couple Dark Elves. Here, you don't even need the swiftness, and then you just use Frayla's ability to burn them to death. So we'll have to see if Tyler can figure out a way to close it. One Azazel and a Ray. Pays 3 here for the Azazel. And then burns the Energize and plays the Ray as well. So takes Mark down to 8. Chooses not to pay the 1,000 life here, which I don't think is remarkably necessary to not pay it. You aren't dealing with lethal on the board right now. It's only 2,200 damage. It'd be pretty close. Could also consider using the ability of Azazel to pay to draw a card potentially. I possibly would have done that before I played the Ray, just to see if I maybe top decked into a Faith in the Darkness, because a Faith in the Darkness there would have been pretty awesome. Passes the turn back to Mark. See Mark starting to have some of that drain stuff in his hand. And with that Soul Prison, he can steal that Astema and start using it to his advantage. A little unfortunate that he happens to have another one here for Tyler. Because also Mark is playing runes. So that means that he's got his own Astema, 1, so that's an immediate 1,000-point life swing. Can play the other Soul Prison, the other Astema, take it, get another 1,000 life point swing, and then swing in with his flyers. Like, that practically seals the game at this point. Instead, choosing to play Bloodsucking Bard, I think, which is a 300 life point swing. So this is an interesting play, maybe just putting out more bodies. Ultimately, though, if he had played the Soul Prison on the Astema and stolen it, he would have drained 5, gained 5 again, taking Tyler down to 24. The 2 swingers in the air would put Tyler down to 2, and at that point in time, you just drain him to death with the Astema for lethal. So this is both, I think, both players have not quite utilized Astema to her fullest potential to close games. She has a lot of impact in this low game when life is, especially between darkness decks, when life is really low, to manipulate things very quickly to a point of being able to close things out. You know, Tyler having no flyers on his side means that those Azazels were completely fine to just swing in. And we do see that top deck Gene, so now we kind of have this big board versus big board. It's 5v5 though. And Tyler is technically ahead. So the Gene's going to swing in here. The Bard's going to block it. That's fine. I imagine you probably swing in with the Dark Elf Gravekeeper here, potentially. And then if it's going to get blocked, then you use Frayla to burn it, like burn him for some chip damage. And then the Azazel can swing in, and if that's going to block, then you can, drain and burn that way. The Zero can swing in and try to take something out there. The Frayla can swing it. Like, you can kind of make it so that both sides, because they each have 4 resonators that can still attack and block, you at least clear the board and leave your Gene up. Ultimately, though, just deciding to pass and play passively. So now Tyler has 2 flyers to answer the 2 flyers that are out there. Looks like he used Power of Immortality or something to target the Asthma to pop the bubble from 0, and then casts the Soul Prison. So the Soul Prison steals it. It's a life point swing down to 21, up to 21, evens it out, and then we're back in the same position we were before. Azazel. One of the Azazels can swing in. Oh, there's a third Azazel. So one of the Azazels can swing in, even if it gets blocked by 0. The other one swings in, and then the 2 Asthmas can just drain him to death at that point, because there's no flyers. Although with the life point total being as bad as it is, if he does drain himself down to 1, Tyler can respond by him draining by using Frayla's effect and burning him out. So Power of Immortality on the 0 on the Asthma to kill the Ray. So then when they trade, the Asthma comes back in tapped, and it's another drain at that point, 26-16. And then Tyler recognizes that he can't win at that point, and so scoops it up, and we move on to game 2. As we go into the next game, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell down below so you're notified when all of our videos goes live, and consider supporting the channel by being a member here on YouTube or by checking it out on Patreon for all the cool exclusive perks that come with supporting us. Thank you guys so much. Let's go to the next game. So in game 2 here, first turn, we see that Dark Elf's Burning Stone there. Dark Elf Gravekeeper coming down, hopefully getting to send a Safina, which is really nice. So we can see a Hilda on turn 2. I think really the thing that came down to it on game 1 is Tyler maybe just didn't quite utilize that Asthma as well as he should when he had the opportunity, and then unfortunately had to give the game over. We're seeing that turn 1 energize into Bloodsucking Bard to kill the Gravekeeper and drain 3 life over on Mark's side. Interesting use of the drain here. I don't think I would have used Energize at this point so early, especially knowing that it was just to put out kill something that was only going to hit me for 4. And I am a drain deck. I probably would have just played a 1-drop, maybe some early game discard to then set up for like a turn 2 like punish response of a Jet Black Wings. In general, the Dark Elf deck, at least in the early game, can struggle against Jet Black Wings. Sure, Frayla brings back cards forever, but that is continuously hurting yourself to do that. And against a deck that has a lot of drain, and specifically Asthma, you don't really want to be burning yourself too much. So play just goes ahead and pays for the 0 here, and then at the end of the turn pays the 3 life to bring back the Gravekeeper to the hand. Mark deciding, he says, hey, I can't deal with an early game 0, just using that Black Rosario. Fair use of it. For Mark's take on Lucifer, having a 0 out there that early can be pretty devastating, and then following it up with saying, let's do Tears of the Fallen and try to rip that card out of your hand. Looks like he hit a Grim, which is a real bad hit for him to have struck there. If Frayla had been able to stick the Grim in the Darkness matchups, Grim has Barrier Black, so like that card just sticks around forever, generates mystery counters at a really high rate, and can just turn into a kill anything flyer, which is really good. See an Asthma here. See a Frayla. Now, a potential play here, honestly, would be, in my mind, would be cast Frayla, and then get the trigger for it, and then like this, and then play the Gravekeeper after the fact. He has to burn himself for 2 here. Play the Gravekeeper after the fact, swing at him for 6, play the Gravekeeper, let it mill, and then give the Gravekeeper swiftness and swing the Gravekeeper into the Butler. It's going to die at the end, or it, you know, some combination of extra chipping in that extra damage. I think Tyler's plan also works just fine here, at least establishing a board. Again, Black Rosario is already gone, so now he has to fight through Jet Black Wings. Contract Demon here, Mark gonna burn himself for 4. We already have 2 Darkness runes revealed, so it is an 8/8. Is sitting on that Power of Immortality, and then passes the turn there. So Tyler in a pretty good position here. I think the first step, you see he does have that several of those blades in his hand. I think the first step is to swing in with the Gravekeeper, just to see if he can chip through that damage, and then if there happens to be a block, you know, he can remove it. It's going to use that Look of Corruption instead in the early game. March of the Dead, another Contract Demon. We're going to steal the Azazel, which I think is the right call. That other card in his hand is the 2-drop that drains 2, gains 2. When it comes into play, I can't remember its name. Asked him to come in here, drain another 5. I don't really love the Astema play here, particularly because of the idea of Jet Black Wings. I probably actually would have left up the will to be able to use sort of the Life-Severing Blade if there was a punish with Jet Black Wings. There really isn't a reason why Mark shouldn't just swing in here. None of the creatures that are on the board can kill it. He's fine, and Tyler is tapped out. And then swing in, remove something potentially, or just get the free 8 damage. And then during Tyler's upkeep, or like in response to him casting his first card for the turn, just doing Jet Black Wings and just locking Tyler down for a turn, essentially, in this matchup. Which is kind of what he wants. So he's at a weird space life-wise, where he'd be pushing Hilda and Safina to suddenly be 7/7s. But at the same time, I think he's okay with that, mainly because he's not dealing against Belials and stuff. So yeah, we see in the swing in with the Contract Demon. Tyler says, "Yep, sure, I will take it." Goes down to 19. I think you probably still just take the block here, regardless of knowing that he's going to do the Jet Black Wings play or he has access to it. I think you still force him to have it or force him to burn it on his own turn. It minimizes the impact on your turn, especially if you were already going to take the damage. Like, throw a block underneath it, just in case. So yeah, we're going to see this in Calling Stone. He's going to try to go to combat. We see that Jet Black Wings come down. Those 3 things are going to get killed. Now he's got a permanent -6/-6 for the turn. Thankfully, though, he is under 2,000 life, so Hilda and Safina both are 7/7s thanks to their ability. So they do get to survive the turn, which is nice. Helping Tyler kind of keep a board state at least while he's dealing with this negative space. And then we're going to see the Life-Severing Blade here, a Power of Immortality in response. I think you potentially use the other Life-Severing in your hand just to kill the Contract Demon and get things off the board. Don't let him draw another card. He is going to drain himself, sure, so he's helping you in that regard. But I think you still just use double Life-Severing Blade here. You only paid 1 will to his 1 will, you paid 1 card to his 1 card, and you keep a creature off the board and maintain your advantage. Mark's sitting on a ton of Drain in his hand, as well as a March of the Dead to be able to bring that Drain back if he needs it. Sitting on a potential 1,200 life point swing here of Drain 6, gain 6. Pays 1 for a Thought Control. Says, let's see what that last card in your hand is. For those last 2 cards in your hand, we have the other Life-Severing Blade and a Frayla. You probably take the Life-Severing Blade, although interesting enough, took the Frayla. I think you probably take the removal here. Being it's so high life, you're not particularly worried about a Frayla coming into play, especially considering how the Frayla is not going to have swiftness. And then we're going to see, like I said, 2 of those drain gains, so taking Tyler down to 15 and gaining up to 34 while also putting 2 bodies on the board. So we're once again in Astema range. It makes things very, very tricky for Tyler. And he's staring down 3 bodies. Swings in 7. See the block. Swings in 7 again. We see another block. Ooh, we see a Gene in hand. It's pretty awesome. Frayla's gonna come out. Frayla's gonna go grab Frayla, I imagine. And we can see a Gene play in the follow-up here. Or leave up for Life-Severing Blade. Yep, we see the Gene. So we're going to see the swing in with the Gene for 7. Mark says that's fine. I'll go down to 27. Tapped out here, staring down a board that still has access to Demon Division. And there's that Astema. So play a second Astema comes down here, and ultimately then he can just pay the life to finish the game off that way. So Mark taken in the Battle of Drain versus Aggro. Tyler unfortunately not being able to close it, but thanks to you guys for being able to play. Tech profiles of both lists will be up later this week, and until next time, this is GMO73 saying class dismissed.